The Bible word exposed in this lesson is grace. What do you think grace means in the Bible? Generosity? Unmerited favor? God's riches at Christ's expense? Or thanks? Today, grace is a hard word to define, but it hasn't always been that way. Go back to the 12th century A.D. Back then, grace was a secular word used in everyday life outside of the church. Today it is not. Yet grace is frequently used in churches today because today's Bible versions have dragged this word into the 21st century where very few know its real meaning. Some have taken advantage of this and reshaped grace into a special Bible word. Two definitions are commonly given for grace: the acronym God's riches at Christ's expense and unmerited favor. The acronym has given rise to a popular explanation of grace as being what God has given to us through Jesus. One problem with this is that the Bible often uses grace apart from God and Jesus. The definition of unmerited favor has problems of its own. What is favor? Is it saying that God favors some people over others? Is it saying that God does certain people a favor? If you replace the word grace in the Bible with unmerited favor, it does not fit. Many latch on to the unmerited part of this definition and insist that grace is something that is unmerited, unearned. That is what grace is not. Grace is not merited. Grace is not earned. We need to cross over to what grace is. Charis is a Greek word for grace, but charis is not always translated as grace. It actually is translated 11 different ways in the King James Version. We can get a hint to the meaning of grace from two of these. One is gracious. Of course, gracious comes from the word grace. We know what gracious means. The other word is liberality. Liberality is an old word that means generosity. This is the meaning of grace: generosity. Grace is generosity. Charis can be translated as generosity every time. It fits. When you use the word grace, don't you hide God's message? If you talk about God's grace, what are you talking about? Most people don't know. But when you talk about the generosity of God, everyone knows. Whenever you see the word grace in the Bible, replace it with generosity, because in the Bible, grace is generosity.
For the only Bible version that uses the correct words, get the Breakthrough version or the Breakthrough KJV.